Hello and welcome to our Sunday chat. It's been a while since I've seen you. Hi, I'm Elizabeth Rockey. I am the face behind Rockey Road to Reading, and I'm so glad you're with me here today for our Sunday chat and our Right to Read reflections. I hope you were able to see that amazing movie, the Right to Read film. And today we're just going to be checking out what that film looked like, what it explored, and how we then can take action as a community and ensure that everyone has the right to read. Hopefully you were able to watch that film. If you weren't able to see the Right to Read film, please visit their website. It's only available for a few days here in our National Reading Month. It is available till March 9th, so we want to make sure that you have access to that film. If you haven't seen it, please still feel free to join us this afternoon, and even in the replay, put your thoughts in the chat so we can follow along with each other this afternoon. I'd love to read all your chats and get your feedback on what you thought of the film. So I'm so glad again that you are here this afternoon. I would love to give you just a snippet of the film because it was really impactful by showing you the trailer this afternoon. So if you haven't been able to see the Right to Read film, again, check it out here at the link below. It's also linked in our link tree. So you make sure that you watch that trailer and watch the whole film. But here it is, the Right to Read film trailer.
Millions of American kids struggle to read.
We should succeed in seeing that every 8-year-old can read independently.
When I first started teaching in Oakland, there were only 2 kids in my class of 35 who could read.
Larry ran to the cat.
My man Larry, I'm gonna say this right now on tape. My man Larry just read his first sentence by himself, and I'm very, very proud of him.
We have a lot of people who struggle to read. Why aren't we screaming and yelling about this?
In 35 years, we have gone backwards, not forwards.
It is a national problem that cuts across demographics, but it's painted as a minority issue.
For as long as I can ever remember, I've wanted to be a teacher.
This school is the lowest performing in reading in the district.
So this is a civil rights issue. We're really trying to figure out how to get Oakland kids to read.
Reading is everything. That's the foundation to everything in this life.
It has been said that illiteracy is one of the most solvable issues of our time.
What letter is it?
Why?
Yeah.
Everybody deserves the right to read. Literacy is for all.
We want to make sure that all students have the opportunity to be with a teacher who has learned the science of reading in order to crack the code of reading.
Question is today, do we have the political will and do we have the moral courage and fortitude to use literacy as a vehicle to include all? This is social justice.
Wow, well, I don't know about you, but some of my first reactions to that film were definitely tears of joy, a little bit of sorrow, and also a little bit of fight in me to continue to fight truly until every student is able to read. Again, if you haven't been able to watch the full film, the Right to Read film, please check it out on their website. It's just available for a few more days here in March for National Reading Month. And we want to dive right into our discussion. If you're here with us live, hey, thanks for being here. Hey, friends, I see a couple of you popping up here that I have some views. So thanks so much for joining us. If you're watching on the replay, I'm super excited you're able to learn with us as well. This afternoon, we're going to be digging into some discussion and some reflective questions from the discussion guide that actually came from the Right to Read film project. So we really want to give them credit and appreciate that they're starting this conversation for us, that we really want to not just have teachers and principals, but community leaders and politicians and family members join this conversation of fighting for how we can get everyone to read. So I want to start with these questions here. Again, drop it in the chat box if you're here with us live. Hey guys, I see some more popping up. I would love to know, what were your first reactions of the film? It's been a while since we've come together online in an afternoon. We were able to watch a couple films together in October for National Dyslexia Month. But hopefully you were able to see this film on reading just in general for our entire student body population across the United States. So what were some of your first reactions? I'm seeing a couple likes, so hopefully that meant you also liked the film. I loved the film. It's very impactful, and it follows the stories of more than just families, more than just students, but also activists, researchers. It includes many voices. Many stakeholders came to the table for this film. So we so appreciate them sharing their experience. Throughout this afternoon and evening, we will go ahead and explore too, not only how educators and schools can become more empathetic in response to families with stories like these, but again, how community leaders can join us in this fight to make sure everyone can read. I'm checking my chat here to see if some other friends left any comments or any reactions. Hopefully your reactions, again, were similar to mine and that you enjoyed the film, and hopefully it's motivating you to action. I want to go ahead and feel free to continue to drop your thoughts into the chat box or message us later on this evening, your thoughts of the film if you weren't able to watch it yet. But I want to thank and introduce you to some of these people that are part of this film. When you get to see it, if you haven't already, you're going to encounter many of these faces. And again, I really want to celebrate that this film not just included families, it didn't just include students or teachers, it also had community leaders, right? Researchers, and it had some newscasters, right? Some journalists who really have impacted how we can view reading and literacy. It's okay if you haven't seen that film yet. I want to go ahead and introduce you to some of these faces. Mr. Weaver here, Kareem Weaver, I've actually already cited him in my dissertation. Man, he's a great advocate for fighting for his students. He started in the classroom as a teacher, worked his way up through being a principal, and now he's working with the NAACP, as you'll see in the film, to make sure all Oakland students can have that right to read. You also do have that teacher voice. We want to celebrate those teachers that are doing the best they can with what they know to fight for students to read. And in this film, you get to see Miss Causey, and she is a new teacher. And we know that today in education, we have many new educators or early career teachers in education. And she realized that some of the instruction that she was told to give was a little bit scattered and it wasn't meeting the needs of all her learners. So she dove into what structured literacy looked like, and she ensured that students could get explicit systematic phonics so that they could truly see growth in their reading skills. And it shared this journey of what her classroom looked like even through COVID, that students were able to make progress in learning gains because of that explicit instruction. We also really want to center the students themselves and their families, right? So in this film, we were able to meet the Adams Staples family and the Hunter family. And I really love that the takeaway from here is not a deficit thinking that these families were lacking, right? But you got to see that these families fought for their students. And really, we want to make sure that we celebrate what our parents are doing for their children, that they most often than not are mama bears or papa bears, right? They want to advocate for their students and they want them to succeed. And we see even in the Hunter family that she is so strong in her belief about early literacy and early childhood that she actually goes and is a trainer for a language program developing that early language in students. We have a couple other people who show up on screen throughout the film, but particularly Dr. Burke. And then we also see Emily Hanford, an infamous to some, famous journalist for others. If you haven't seen Sold a Story, you might want to go and listen to those podcasts. But you can see that this film really made sure that every voice was heard. And one of the first takeaways that we heard from this film was this idea of having us be in the information age. Kareem Weaver says towards the very beginning of the film, imagine being in the Stone Age and you ain't got no stone. Imagine being the Bronze Age and you have no bronze. We are in the information age right now and you can't read the information. Many of our students are indeed those who are in the information age and they can't read the information. They can't access text. And so we have this question that comes up in our discussion guide. If we're living in the information age, why is reading and literacy so essential for students to learn? And it's so essential because while there is audiobooks and other ways that perhaps students can access information, we want them to have their fundamental right to read, as is the theme and thesis of this whole film. Being in the information age without being able to decode never allows students to then even enjoy reading. So if you haven't been able to see the film, be sure that you listen in and listen for his quote there. Another takeaway that we have from this film is that they really center our scores. We know that students are more than scores, but currently as a nation, the singular assessment that gives us a report on how students are doing is our nation's report card, the National Assessment of Educational Progress. And recently, our most recent assessment, we were able to see almost 30% of America's children were reading below a basic level. The statistic includes students of all racial and socioeconomic backgrounds. But if we were to break it down even further, we see that 56% of Black fourth graders, 50% of Hispanic fourth graders, 57% of American Indian, Alaska Native fourth graders are reading below basic. So we can see that below basic is often the default if you want to look and explore at those NAEP scores on their website. But that means that they're falling below our lowest performance level. Here at the Rocky Road to Reading, if you followed any of our Science of Reading Saturdays, I love to share with you the Science of Reading scoop. And one of our phrases that I've said is that the only thing that should be an upside down triangle is an ice cream cone. In education, we have this idea of MTSS, or multiple tiers of support for our students, specifically across all content areas and behavior as well. But particularly here, we're talking about reading, and more often than not, about 80% of our students should be getting their needs met through Core 1 instruction. But that's not currently the case. If, as we're seeing through these NAEP numbers, almost 65% of fourth grade students perform below the proficient level nationwide. And then here in the state of Florida, for those of you who are, hey guys, here in the sunny state of Florida, about 62% of fourth grade students perform below the NAEP proficient level. So again, it just comes down to the question of, who students are we serving? Are we really serving all students? In the film, we also have Dr. Houston, and he says the research shows that every child can read. Some other research says about 95% of our students can read with explicit systematic instruction with that right instruction. So we have this question of what is happening in our community and in this community that was filmed around using evidence-based reading instruction. Has it been mandated? Has it been put in place where you are listening from today? If you don't know the answer to that, I'd love for you to check out your reading proficiency scores for your school or your state and your area to see where those gaps and those deficits are for our students. Students often from more affluent and well-resourced families have access to support for remediation and tutoring, things like Orton Gillingham tutoring, but we're wondering there's still then that gap of access for other students who don't have the means to do that. So our question is, how can we ensure that everyone, especially students in historically underserved and predominantly Black, Hispanic, and American Indian, Alaska Native communities have access to the same supports? And hopefully our answer is that we can truly improve our core Tier 1 instruction to ensure every student can have that access to the ability to read. One of the themes that you'll also see through this film, if you haven't seen it already, is this idea of know better, do better. Miss Cossey is one of the teachers in the classroom, as I shared before, and she welcomes us right into the classroom. And you'll see that she has a really effective coach side by side. And without that coach, she wouldn't have been aware of the explicit systematic phonics program bookworms that she shares about. But this phrase, know better, do better, is really common, hopefully, here in our Science of Reading community. And it's this idea that many of our teachers weren't trained to understand how to explicitly teach phonics. Perhaps they learned a different way when they grew up. Perhaps it wasn't taught in their college of education. So though there are different approaches to literacy instruction, we want to have this question: How do you think students should be taught how to read? If I have families and parents, I know I have some friends that said they were interested in watching later. So parents and families, as a parent, how do you think you could influence what approach is used in the classroom and at home? Have you asked your teacher what they're using, what curriculum they are using? And as teachers, fellow teacher friends, hey, thank you so much for joining us. How can we inform our practice and instruction? How can we ensure that we're putting more tools into our tool belt and toolbox so we can know better and do better and make sure we're teaching every single student in front of us? I love, and the final theme here that we have for this afternoon is this phrase from Kareem again, and he shares, "It smells like freedom," right? We see that literacy through those statistics. Literacy is apparently a right, but it's not being provided to all our students, right? So literacy is a civil rights issue. As a fundamental skill, reading, it's necessary to succeed in the information age. Reading, writing, and literacy should be something every person can do at a proficient level or above. If you can't read, you can't have access to the full benefits of our society. As we hear from Frederick Douglass, once one learns to read, they can truly be free, right? So our question for myself and for others in our community today is, how can we be better advocates and allies for our Black, Hispanic, American Indian children in schools? Kareem Weaver, as you heard, hopefully in the trailer, and when you listen to and watch the full film, also has this takeaway and this idea that we can use literacy as a vehicle to include all. We want to make sure we're including all learners in our instruction and leaving no one behind. So if you joined me before in our October film, we watched 2 films with our dyslexic children, and these themes, I think, are echoing still today in this film, The Right to Read. These themes that I want us to take away and center around and rally up for, become warriors for our students for, is this idea, first off, is that you are not alone. If you're just learning this and you're feeling defeated and seeing these statistics, there's no worries. You are not alone. I also want to remind us, though, that we are not alone to dismantle the whole brick wall of literacy as a single person. We have to do it in community. Advocacy can't operate in isolation. When you watch the film, you're going to see some amazing community leaders and community groups that come together to advocate for their Oakland students. Not only do teachers and parents advocate for their students, but the NAACP ends up making a petition to fight for their students. And they have several other community organizations, their literacy council, jump in and fight for their kids to be able to read. Again, that idea that comes up is that we need each other and we thrive together when working together. So our call and my call to us is to get into community. One way to do that is that I would love to invite you to be part of our online community of Rocky Road to Reading, joining us every Saturday for our Science of Reading Scoop. I'd love for you to be part of that virtual community. I also want to invite you to take action. Again, if you haven't seen that film already, I'm going to put that link here again on the screen. Our link film is therighttoreadfilm.org. It's available for a few more days till March 9th. I believe it ends at midnight. And I'd love for you to please watch the film and then share your learning. Share this new awareness and knowledge of our U.S. literacy crisis with your friends, family, colleagues, and join the conversation online. Feel free to tag Science of Reading, The Right to Read Film, on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, wherever you are watching from live. Feel free to share our video on YouTube or with other friends as well. Again, I appreciate you being here, and I hope that you can continue to fight with us till everyone can read. Have a great evening.